Hey Mojoholics, I'm your host Rebecca, and in this first episode of WatchMojo FAQ, our CEO and executive producer Ashkan Karbasfrooshan announces some programming changes and discusses the possibility of a WatchMojo app. Hey Mojoholics, with me is Ashkan Karbasfrooshan, do not try to spell that, who is the co-founder and CEO of WatchMojo. Over the years he's hosted some videos and now he's back in front of the camera. So we want to know why the change in programming.
Sure. So about a year ago, you and Dan started to do the public service announcements where you basically announced to the Mojoholics if we had a new t-shirt or if we had launched a new suggestion tool and whatnot. And then 6 months ago, we said, well, wait a second, we have this great suggestion tool, but we want to showcase some lists to get feedback on. So then at the time, Emily, who's no longer with us, started doing a short and sweet What's Your Mojo show where we would just put a spotlight on 5 lists. When Emily left, it made a lot of sense for us to keep the show going, and we added some segments like In Case You Missed It, and we were already doing an FAQ for all intents and purposes. You know, through social media and email, we were answering a lot of questions, so it made sense to also add an FAQ at the end of that show. And because you and Dan had already been doing the PSAs and Dan was doing our voiceover in some of the videos, it kind of was natural to bring you two together in the show. Now, fast forward 6 months, we're kind of at another crossroads where we see the feedback is very good, and an ongoing feedback is you guys want to see more of these shows, seeing behind the scenes and other staffers. So we're going to be doing more of these behind the scenes kind of segments. Now's a good time to basically carve out the FAQ and create that as a standalone show. So this is episode 1. But Dan also by now deserves his own show, and we're working on a few ideas, and this being WatchMojo, you guys will actually in the next week or two give us feedback on what kind of show that should be. I'll let Dan take you guys through that. And speaking of Dan, by the way, a little bit of trivia here. Dan has the biggest collection of WatchMojo shirts in the universe. Okay, I won't tell you how many, but it's plentiful. Now that all being said, and because you and Dan have actually a very good rapport and the audience seems to like that, Dan will still be co-hosting the end of the What's Your Mojo show in the giveaway section. And you guys will be answering a lot of questions, but questions that are more specific to you two, like what's your background, what do you like and whatnot, and less about company policy and editorial horizon ideas and whatnot. At the same time, we've heard a lot of comments asking for more WatchMojo staffers. So we kind of wrestled with that and said, what's the best way to proceed? And we realized this show could be a good platform so that if you guys are asking questions regarding video editing, we can bring on one of our video editors. If you guys want to know how you could help us add subtitles, we can bring on our community manager and he could sort of take you guys through that. So what you're going to see is a bit more interaction. So for one thing, there's a link below the video. You guys can go and suggest questions, this being WatchMojo, and then others can upvote that question or downvote. So, if you guys want to know what it will take for one of you to go out on a date with Rebecca, you could ask that question, and if enough people upvoted, then we might answer that. I don't think so, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There will be a filtering process. And then the last thing is, basically, this will evolve from the one-way communication that the show was, as entertaining, well, as the segment was, to more of a two-way. So if you guys ask a question and we give you an answer and you disagree or you want to chime in afterwards, you'll be able to communicate with us directly.
Great. I am looking forward to bugging my coworkers on camera. Anyway, Joshua Olivas and Aiden Edwards, among others, myself included, want to know where the hell the WatchMojo app is.
Yes, the app. We do get a lot of emails about the app and lots of comments on YouTube. So, okay, the worst kept secret is that, believe it or not, we actually have an app. It's an iPad app. It's an app we had built, not even we built, a partner of ours built 3-4 years ago. The reason we don't promote that app, one, is that it's just for iPad right now. There's no Android version, and I don't think it works at all on iPhones. Is that it reflects our content the way our content used to be presented, which is the categories. So automotive, business, comedy, fashion, health, history, music, travel, movies, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we largely produce top 10 lists on pop culture topics with the odd origins or verses. So it's very weird for us to promote that because it's not really who we are anymore. So that's the reason. Now, the other reality is, to quote one of my favorite comedians, Chris Rock, is just because you can drive with your feet doesn't mean you should. So just because a company can have an app doesn't mean that we should have an app. It's different for tech applications, like if you're trying to book a trip or make a payment online, using your big fat finger, well, my big fat fingers to make that is frustrating, so an app is really intuitive. For content companies, the key is to have a mobile-friendly website. So if you want to go to WatchMojo.com, you could basically watch all of our videos in their full glory. But since most of you guys really like watching our videos on YouTube and not elsewhere, then for us, it doesn't make sense to have an app and then take the most hardcore, passionate Mojoholics and divert them to that app and kind of become smaller on YouTube. That really makes no sense at all. We rather put all of our, for better or worse, go all in on YouTube. If you think about it, we could also say, well, why stop there? Let's get more people to come on WatchMojo.com. We could publish items 10 through 6 of our lists on YouTube and then publish 5 through 1 on WatchMojo. That's really great for us in theory, short-term thinking. You guys would hate us. You'd get a lot of hate mail instead of all these wonderful gifts that people mail you apparently in the mail. And it wouldn't make sense for us. So we really go all in. Now, the bigger question, though, is as we get close to 5 million subs, maybe it does make sense to have an app because we wouldn't really divert. Maybe it will add to the magic of WatchMojo. And now, as I said, this is very interactive. There is a survey below this video where you guys get to answer some questions we have, such as, should we have an app, yes or no? Should we focus on Android or iOS? Should it focus only on the videos or also our suggest tool or our trivia or our this day in video calendar? So we want to hear from you. Let us know, and maybe we will have an app soon. Cool.
I know the apps that I am most interested in are like trivia apps, so that's definitely an interesting aspect of the site.
We do have a trivia section. I would say when you look at all of our apps, we have the calendar, like this day in video calendar, we have the trivia, and we have the suggest tool. And without a doubt, the suggest tool, you guys are very vocal. We love that. We love the feedback. The suggest tool is far and away the most sort of interactive and popular app that we have. But that's kind of like where we need some feedback. Do we go double down on videos? But if we double down on videos, what's the point? Because you're already watching them on YouTube. Or do we kind of go and take something like trivia that isn't as popular as, say, this day in video or the suggestion tool and push that?
Alrighty. Okay, last question. If people want to reach you, how do they do that?
Well, believe it or not, I do read the comments on YouTube. That's always been very helpful. And if any of you have emailed us at watch@watchmojo.com, you may be surprised to see that I or one of our colleagues will reply. So I would say that's still the best way. Try not to send too much hate mail, but we do read those as well. Yeah, so that's the best way. Viewer feedback's always been very important. That won't change. Just we are trying to streamline everything. That's why we launched a suggestion tool about a year ago, because as we got bigger and bigger, it was impossible for me to just read comments and be like, hey, we should produce this or that. Same thing now. We're getting maybe 15, 20,000 comments per day. It's impossible for us to read everything. And I think this show and the emails and What's Your Mojo is just our way to make WatchMojo as good as it can be, reflecting your tastes, your preferences and whatnot, without necessarily pandering either.
All right. Thank you very much, Ash. Thank you guys for watching episode 1, and be sure to tune in next time for maybe a new WatchMojo staffer. Thanks for watching the inaugural episode of WatchMojo FAQ. Tune in again next week and tell us what you think.